You're listening to Storage Nerds Podcast, where we unravel the best-kept secret of the real estate investing world, the storage industry. Join the grassroots guru in self-storage, Stacy Rossetti, in insightful discussions about finding, funding, and running these spaces, allowing you to yield the highest returns possible. Get your foot in the door on self-storage and discover how to properly purchase facilities, negotiate with sellers, and close the deal without worries. Start unpacking that investment wisdom with Stacy right now.
All right, so now what I'm going to go through is like it's called my 6-step system. All right. And it's going to be like, what your company is going to look like once you start getting into storage. All right. And I'm going to take you through like all 6 steps. All right. All 6 steps. This is the first 6 steps of what you're going to do. All right. In order to get started in self-storage investing. And the first one is that, obviously you need to set up some admin, right? I always say admin or office, right? Really the main thing is you want to have a phone, right? And now this is a phone for you to be able to receive phone calls on from like owners and stuff. So it could be your own personal line or it could be a different line, okay? Because you're going to be building lists and like calling owners. So the question that you have to ask yourself is like, do you want your own phone line or a different line? So the way that I have it is I have my personal line, which is like for my friends and family, and it has nothing to do with work. And then I have a business line, which is a Google Voice number. And I set it up, it's free. And then I give that business line out to like all the owners. So that way, when somebody's calling me, I know that it's like, if they call me on my Google Voice phone number, I know it's an owner from like a storage facility. Right. So that's kind of how I set it up. So you don't have to do that if you don't want to, but that's how I do it. Because the truth is that you're going to be like talking to a lot of storage facility owners, looking at a lot of deals and stuff. And so I just like to separate work from business. Okay. Work from business is what I do, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. Another thing is you can work on really the structure of your company, right? You're going to be buying this facility in an LLC. Right? Most likely in an LLC. I would say, if you're going to buy and hold something, you're going to hold it in an LLC is what you're going to do. Okay. Now, obviously I'm not an attorney. I'm not anybody that can tell you how to structure your business. You should talk to your attorneys about this. But I mean, for the most part, you want to have something that you can buy that's going to be your holding company, right? And that's what we have too. Now, we go through Wyoming is what we do. For our holding companies, for a lot of our holding companies. But you don't have to do that. You can just get it right in your state. Actually, the very first one that we did was in Georgia. And then because we didn't know what we were doing. And then after that, we started going through Wyoming is what we did. Okay. But you don't have to do that. But I highly, highly recommend that you start really educating yourself on like how to truly structure your business the correct way so that you're protected. Because think about this. Okay. Let's just say you buy a house, a residential house. Okay. That is, and you rent it out. Okay. That's going to be one tenant. Right? One tenant that could possibly maybe one day sue you for some reason, right? But when you are in storage, you're going to have a lot of tenants, all right? A lot. So you want to make sure that you separate yourself as far away from those tenants as you can, okay? So you could buy a storage facility that has 50 or 100 doors, and that means you have 50 or 100 tenants. So that's like, 100 times more than this residential one of like being sued or whatever. Now, obviously, we've never been sued or anything, but like, we have, by the end of April, we'll have 2,000 doors and 2,000 tenants. That's a lot of tenants. That's a lot of risk. Right. So for us, like not having anything in our name or being protected is super important. So I highly recommend that if you really want to get into commercial real estate, any real estate at that matter, but commercial real estate, you should be thinking about the structure of your company. Because when I get started in real estate investing, I honestly really I think I learned a little bit about structure, but I didn't really take it to heart, honestly. I was just like, whatever. And at one point I had 30 rehabs in one company. And then I hired like an accountant to start doing all my stuff. I was doing it all myself. And then I was like, man, this is too much, 30 houses. So then I hired an accountant, and the accountant was like, why do you have so many properties in this one company? Are you crazy? And I was like, maybe, yeah. And so then he was like, you need to get into like better structuring. Like, this is way too risky. And so then we started really figuring it out, educating ourselves on like all the different ways that you can structure your businesses, especially if you're going to have a lot of property and stuff. Okay. So I just recommend that you really kind of educate yourself on the LLC, or educate yourself on structuring. How are you going to buy commercial property? Okay. And so that's going to be something that's under admin, and I think these are probably, out of all the things that you do for admin to prepare yourself to really get into storage investing, for me, these are probably the two most important things. So I'm going to put those here so that you guys know, start thinking about that. Okay. And then we have the marketing. Okay. And this is like really this is like step 1 to step 2 to step 3. Okay, just so you know, that's kind of how it works. All right. And so the marketing, there's a lot of different ways to find storage facility. I go in my boot camp for all my students, I go over like 15 different ways to buy storage. I'm not going to go into all of that right now, but right now, what we are doing internally, what we do with all my 15 virtual assistants that we have, we are cold calling. Okay, that's what we're doing. So you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but this for us is just the best way to go about it. Now, this cold calling owners is what we do. So we cold call owners is what we do. We try to find the owner's information, and then we call them to see if they want an offer. You never ask anybody if they want to sell. You ask them if they want an offer, because nobody wants to sell, but everybody wants to get an offer, right? Just to see what their property is worth, And So cold calling, just so everybody knows, this strategy, this is a numbers game. It is a numbers game. So like, if you don't want to sit there and call owners over and over and over again, because that's really basically what you're going to be doing with cold calling. Because think about this, like the mindset of somebody, like the mindset of a storage facility owner. You have two different mindsets. One of them is like, they're not thinking about selling. And then you randomly call them and say, hey, would you like to get an offer? And they're thinking like, yeah, maybe, I don't know, but I'm not ready. Right? Because, let's just say that we gave them an offer and they're like, it's right on what they were thinking. They were like, wow, I was really thinking that's what it is. Maybe I should sell. Right. And then all of a sudden they're thinking like, okay, well, like QuickBooks is not really perfect. I don't have my tax returns, P&L balance sheet. Like, I don't really have proof of income. Like, because, this is really the mindset of an owner that you're cold calling, is that they are not prepared to sell. All right. So you have to understand that going into calling them, right? They are not prepared to sell. Okay. And then the second thing is the second way is like, if you go on to like Crexy or LoopNet or the MLS and you go look for properties, well, guess what? They've already got all their P&L balance sheet, tax returns, everything all done. So they are ready to sell. Like, they're ready to give you all the information. You know what I'm saying? So they're on top of it. So, and so then it's an easier, I wouldn't say easier. It's just a different way of going about doing it, because then essentially what happens is that you have to work with the realtor, the broker in the middle, in order to, like the one that I'm buying right now. Not that the realtor is like horrible, but I mean, it's just so much easier to go directly to an owner and say, look, let me put an offer in. But the truth is, like, this is kind of the easier way to do it. Going to the realtor, going to a broker, and, just looking on Crexy and saying, let me put offers in on all these things. This is the easy way, and this is the hard way. So I'm going to put this here too. So brokers and online, right? This is the hard way, and this is like the easier way. Okay. It's supposed to say easier, not easier. Okay. Now, so Now with the, so these are the two ways, these are the two ways that, like I say, most people are doing it in the thing. So I'm gonna say these are really the most important. Now I have been over many, many times using Google Maps to find storage facilities, virtually driving for storage, or getting out and driving for storage. All right. So actually driving for storage. Those are for me are like honestly it's the best way. But that's not what we're doing right now. Okay. So virtually driving for storage or using Google Maps, and then actually driving for storage. So these are the three ways right here. Now, when I first started getting into self-storage, I was driving for storage. I was actually driving around, like I told you, with like all these little tiny towns, just driving around, talking to owners and seeing if they're interested in getting an offer. And the good thing is, like, especially in like tertiary markets, you just call the number on the sign and like the owner answers. And mostly secondary markets as well too. It's not difficult to get hold of owners in like secondary and tertiary markets. It gets harder when you get into primary markets, right? So this is what I did is I drove for storage. And then after a while, I started really virtually driving. I used Google Maps and I got in and really kind of looked around to see if I could find any storage facilities that way. Right. And so that's what I did as well. So this one right here is kind of what I did in the beginning. Right. And this is like, if you want to buy one facility, this is a very good way to, find storage facilities to buy, but then like, I have to buy a storage facility a quarter is what I have to buy. Okay. So we're into now a storage facility a quarter. And so like for me to be able to buy a storage facility a quarter, I have to have a lot of people calling and talking to owners, and it's like doing the cold calling thing, right? So personally, we never go on Crexi or LoopNet to look for deals. That doesn't mean I haven't done that, right? But I have personally never gone on to Crexi. Now, the deal that I just told you about earlier, that one a wholesaler brought to me, and he said, "Look, I talked to this realtor, and I can get this for a really good deal. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll take a look at it." Right. But I didn't do that myself. My team didn't do that. And then also for our students, we do what's called turnkey acquisitions, which is where they can hire my virtual assistants to find a deal for them. And every once in a while, a student will say, "Hey, like, there's some deals on Crexi. Can you please take a look at them?" And we'll take a look at them is what we'll do. But my virtual assistants are really trained to talk to owners directly. And we don't really do a lot of Crexi stuff because, Crexi or LoopNet or online stuff, because the prices are just really high. Like, for instance, like we just did we did an offer in Montana where they wanted $2.2 million and our offer was like $1.2 million. That's like a huge, big difference, what I'm saying, on a deal. And that's really a lot of times that's how it is on like online stuff, right? So even though it's easier to find the facilities, it's easier to find them here, it's a lot harder to find a good deal, right? And then it's harder to find the deals here, but it's actually easier to talk to the owners, right? And so this as well too, this is probably this is the easiest way to talk to owners, is just doing virtual driving or driving for storage, calling the owner and talking to them, okay? All right, so just so you know, those are all the different ways, okay? All right, the third step, I'll just put it right here. So we're going step 1, admin, step 2, marketing, and step 3 is acquisitions. And acquisitions is, right, putting the offer in, making an offer, right, running the deal analysis and making an offer. You can't make an offer until you run the deal analysis, but that's really what acquisitions is. Getting all of the information from the owner, right? Getting the information from the owner so that you can put an offer in. Okay. And then this is what we go over, like when I talk about deal analysis and all this stuff that I do live, or even I especially go over this in the course. And then also with the deal analyzer, when you buy that, there's training sessions on really how to, use the deal analyzer and run deal analysis and stuff, so, but this is where you've got to get all the information from either the broker or the owner to make an offer. You got to get all the information, right? So you need to get like, now, obviously, if it's an income producing property, you can get a P&L and a balance sheet, and you can get tax returns. You can get everything. Now, obviously, remember that, on a with a cold call, remember they may not have all that ready. Now, I'm going to tell you, typically, probably 80% of the time, they do not have their numbers ready. They don't. Okay. Now, obviously, if you go through the brokers, they're going to have all that ready. Okay. And so you'll just say like, look, okay, like I'm going to send you an email with what we need. And then you just give me that information. Right. And that's kind of how it works with the cold call. Okay. And, you're going to have to get like the purchase price. You're going to have to get the vacancy, which we call economic or physical. This is really what they're paying, but like who's there versus who's actually paying, right? So, we're 85% full on all of our storage facilities, but we're like 69%, economic occupancy. Okay. Something like that. Okay. And then you want to get the square footage, total square footage, and the unit mix. Typically, what we do is get the unit mix so that we can get the total square footage, right? Because they'll be like, it's 12,000 square feet. And then we'll get all the unit mix and add it up, and it's like 11,792 or something like this or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So it's not quite 12,000. And that little tiny square footage, that adds some money onto your deal. So you want to make sure you get exactly the square footage. All right. Being roundabout is okay, but for true numbers, you really want to get you want to get the unit mix. And then also you want to get their pricing, right? So what are you charging for your 10 by 10s? What are you charging for your 10 by 20s and stuff? So you get the unit mix, the square footage, and the pricing. So you can run numbers on that. All right. And then you also get the, let me see, what else do you get? Square footage. And then you get taxes, like you get property. And actually, this is all property taxes. And then you get the utilities and insurance. But the truth is that this is really just a formula. And this is all, this one right here is public data, right? But if you go like onto our bill analyzer and you like, if you click on these squares here, it's a formula. Right. Most of the time we're right on spot. Every once in a while it'll be a little bit off or whatever, but because you want to make sure that you want to like, and the thing is like the property tax for them is going to be completely different for you as well. Right. So like, let's just say they bought it for $250,000 and you're buying it for $1 million. Your tax is going to be way more expensive than theirs. Right. So you want to make sure that you have the right formula and looking at the right numbers and stuff. And so that's really key. All right. And then, but this is what you need to get from the seller, right? So the purchase price, if you can get the purchase price, right? So they may not give you the purchase price. They may like, no, just make me an offer. Then you got to have to run numbers and stuff, right? But you want to get the square foot, the number of units, the unit mix, the pricing, the total square foot. This is kind of where it's at. And then you want to get the vacancy, right? What's the physical versus the economic vacancy? Okay. So, and then if you want to get these expenses, typically we're running our numbers at 38% for our expenses. Okay. Just so everybody knows, like we'll have gross rental incomes, and then we'll have minus the expenses at 38%. Minus, and then that's your NOI essentially is what that is, minus your mortgage if you have a mortgage, right? And then that's your cash on cash return. That's like the net percentage of what you're going to be making, or net income percentage. Okay, that's kind of how that works. But that's what you're going to need in order to run the deal analysis. Now you don't have to use our deal analyzer. You can use any deal analyzer, right? A commercial deal analyzer is what you need, just as long as you can put your unit mix in, and you can separate everything out. And now a lot of times too, like a lot of properties that we look at, there'll be like storage plus an office that they rent out, some commercial space, a sign, RV parking. You do not want to mix all that together. All right. When you're running deal analysis, each of those are separate incomes, and you have to run your analysis on each of those incomes. Like your RV parking is not the same as storage, right? Because your storage, like the national average, for a 10 by 10 is 80, 85, 88 cents maybe in the United States, like in the 80s. And like RV parking is like 20 cents. Like if you put those together, essentially that just like skews your price per square foot. If you put your commercial, it's $1 a square foot, typically on average for like a commercial space, and if you put that in with your RV parking, it's going to skew everything. All right. So you want to separate all of your incomes out and you want to run numbers on all of those separately. Okay. And then somebody says, with regards to your purchase price, can you have the seller sell you the property and mechanicals lease separately? Yes. Yeah, you can do that if you want tax. Yes. So this is actually like the one that we were looking at over here near Orlando. The owner's like, why don't you just buy the LLC? If you buy the LLC, then like you'll save so much money on the taxes is what you'll do. So you could do this as well too. And I've had that proposed many, many times. And we have not yet done that yet because I'm buying stuff in a fund and, in a fund and you can't do that, but you have to buy property. So, but that's kind of how, but you could do that if you wanted to. It's definitely better for capital gains. Yes. Okay. Next is the next one, step 4 is going to be your finance, right? Your finance. You got to raise the money, right? So raising the money could be going to a lender, going to an SBA lender or a local lender, right? Like us, like we went to SBA and got the loan for the Clarksville one, right? And, but you can also go to local banks love storage, right? And they are in need of loans right now. I mean, banks are, obviously you can see banks are desperate right now. So talk to your local, if you find a deal, right? As soon as you find it, talk to the local bank and say, look, now don't go to don't go to any of the ones that are having issues, right? Or you want to go to like a small local community, Leo community bank is where you want to go to, right? Because they're the ones that will lend to you. All right. Now, when you do SBA loans are 10 or 15% down and like prime plus 1 or 2, depending on your experience. Okay. So make sure you run the numbers based on that type of a loan. If you go to a local bank, it's a conventional loan, right? So you're going to put like 20 to 30% down and be at like, 6.7% interest or whatever it is right now, or 7% interest. Okay. We're running our numbers at like 25% down, 7% interest for like conventional loans. That's what we're doing right now. Okay. But you have to understand that there's like, different types of loans out there and you got to run the numbers. And sometimes like SBA works better than like a local one or whatever, so you have to kind of understand that concept. And then on top of that, like you can do some creative deal structuring. So that's what I'm calling that here. Creative deal structuring. So this is what I talk about: owner financing, carrying the second, all kind of wraparound mortgage, wraps, contract for deed. All right, wraps. And then owner financing, this kind of stuff. Okay. So that is like in the deal analyzer, in our deal analyzer, you can run numbers on like creative deal structures. And so if you like, and I'm telling you, the best way to buy deals right now is creative deal structuring. You have to understand this concept and understand what to do. The deal analyzer kind of spreads the cell. I mean, it kind of like goes over that very clear. It's very easy to kind of run numbers that way. But another thing I wanted to point out is that in May, I'll be having a 2-day boot camp for my students, and it's only funding. That's it. It's all things. How do you fund storage facilities? So if you're interested in interested in learning how to raise money and how you can buy all these, how does Stacy buy all these deals and not put any money into the deals? Right? Because I'm 100% privately funded. How does Stacy do all that? I'm telling you this here. The very first deal that I've ever bought with a lender is going to be the one in Clarksville. That's the very first one. All right. But other than that, I've either done something like this, or so this one is like capital. It's a capital raise, either from a private money lender, syndicating, or crowdfunding. And I've done all of these as well too. So private money, finding private monies to lend you money. Oh yeah, another thing too is partnering. Okay, finding a partner. So I've done everything here on this list. I've done it all now, right? I've done it all. So that's pretty cool. So I've partnered, I've crowdfunded, I've syndicated, I found private money. I've done a whole bunch of creative deal structures, and I've gone to banks and got loans, right? So now, so that's really what you're going to have to learn. This is what the boot camp is about in May. So, if you do not understand these things right here, you will not make it in this industry. If you do not understand this right here, how to raise money, you will not make it in the industry. Be able to buy one deal or maybe two deals, and then that's it, right? So you got to learn this. This is the most important thing of everything if you want to really be a commercial real estate investor, okay? Because commercial real estate is expensive. It's expensive. So where are you getting $2 million, $3-4 million to buy facilities, or $1 million, or $700,000? Where do I get all this money to do that? Okay. And then we have, what terms do you typically get on the loans? How do we find more info on the owner structuring deals? Yeah. So I said, in my deal analyzer, I go over that. In my course, I go over that very much. This creative deal. Actually, all of this is my forte. I am a money magnet. I am a fundraiser. I'm a fundraiser. So this is what I teach. This is what I love. So that's what's in the course, and that's in the deal analyzer as well too. There's training videos that come with the deal analyzer as well. Okay. And then we have, so now we found some money. All right, we found some money. So now this is the management, right? Management. You got to run the things. You got to run it, right? So this is where I teach like training your tenants, right? So this is your contract. This is your software, your contract, right? This is where you do like, your revenue management, dynamic pricing, boots on the grounds. This is really like setting all this up. Now, obviously, from steps 1, 2, and 3, right? Your marketing, getting out there and talking to owners. And step number 3, putting in your offers. These 2 steps right here are the hardest steps of all the steps. They're the hardest. You have to talk to owners. You have to put in offers. If you are not doing this, then you will never find a deal. Everybody always thinks that raising the money is the hardest part. Now, it's time consuming and stuff, but it's really not that hard to raise money, honestly. Once you understand the concept of raising money, it's really not that difficult, all right? What's difficult is grinding, right? I am not a grinder. That's why I delegate that to my virtual assistants. They do all the grinding. This is the hardest part. And then this is the fun part right here. Is trying to work with the owners and saying like, okay, how can we get this deal done? Let's figure this out, right? That's the fun part. And then the management part, this is what my husband does, is he manages all of our facilities for us. And the first 600 doors, really, it's not that much work. I mean, honestly, it's really not that much work. Once you start getting past 600, you're like 600 to 1,000, you're like, man, this kind of getting a little bit more work here. After 1,000, you're like, okay, this is getting to be like a lot of work, and then you become like an asset manager. We'll start, my husband, we're about to have 2,000 doors, and he's just like, we're hiring and just going crazy and stuff, right? So, but your first 500 doors, it's really honestly not that much work to run these things. Okay. The first 90 days that you buy something is you're like, okay, now what is going on? I need to figure all this out. And you're setting up your software, your contracts, you're trying to get your tenants into the system. You're trying to figure out your pricing. You're getting the boots on the ground person, your phone's done. Right. But once you get all that done, your first 90 days, you're like, man, I'm kind of ready to get up there and start looking for another deal. That's kind of how you feel, right? And I see my students doing this all the time. All right. So that's kind of how this works, is management. And I get into this like once a month. I do a management session. All right. And I'll teach like, something on management. And then also in the course, there's like a whole management session. And my husband comes in and teaches a lot of that. He does like the due diligence. He's like out in the field and he's doing like, getting on the roof and showing you how to look at the roofs. And he's like talking about auction processes and stuff like that. So that's part of the course. So this is really what intrigues you. Then you should get the course so you can see all those videos and stuff. Okay. Because I just teach this like once a month is what I teach. That's it. All right. Okay. And then finally, number 6 is liquidations. And this is where we're at right now. So we have 13 facilities. We're buying 2, closing at the end of the month, and we're buying another one next month. But we're actually going to sell 3 of our facilities in the Atlanta area, right in the suburbs of Atlanta. Very, very good location. They're they're like the first couple that we bought. They're smaller facilities. They're each 60 doors. And so we've like stabilized these properties. We've had them for like, 2 or 3 years, and we've stabilized them, and they're making really good money, and they're kind of cleaned up and looking good. So it's time to sell those, right? So we can 1031 exchange that money into something else, right? So you're going to decide whether you're either buying and holding them, or you're going to 1031 exchange, or you're just going to flat out sell them, right? Or maybe you could even owner finance it. You could be the one that owner finances the deal. It's a great way to make money. It's like, oh, look, I'm so used to making like $2,000 a month on this facility. Let me just owner finance this, and I can still get some of that money as well. You know what I'm saying? So you could do that. So this is like the fun part. It's like, ooh, I'm going to make so much money on this thing. I'm like 100,000, 300,000. I should really sell that and 1031 exchange it into something else, get a bigger deal, and use that money for a down payment. Right? That's the fun part. So this part right here is super fun for me as well. I'm excited about selling our first 3 properties, see what happens to them, and, see like how much money we get for them. I'm hoping that, I'm getting a good amount of money, but I also know, what I'm saying? I'm selling these properties right now. Right now, it's like if somebody's going to go get a loan, like I can't expect a super high price because there's no lender that's going to finance this. Right. So I need to be like reasonable with selling. I need to be reasonable. And this is one thing I think sellers right now, like owners, are not understanding this concept, is that it's prime plus 1 or 2 out there. Right. So if you want to sell your property, if you actually really want to sell your property, you need to be selling it at a reasonable price so that we can go get loans on these properties. Right. Otherwise, if you don't want to do that, then you need to owner finance those deals. Right. And so I hope that when you get to this point where you're starting to liquidate some of your properties, you're thinking about that. You're like, okay, well, I mean, obviously, if somebody was getting an interest rate for 3%, like they were, a couple of years ago, you could sell it at a higher price, right? Because it's 3% interest, but can't do that right now. You can't do that for the next couple of years. You can't do that. So for all sellers out there, what I'm saying is be reasonable. If you want to sell your property, be reasonable, because this is like so frustrating me when you see something listed, and realtors as well too. Please be reasonable. I don't understand the concept of like putting something listed for $2.2 million and running the numbers at a good cap rate, like a 6 or a 7 cap, and getting 1.2. Like how does that come? I'm not quite understanding that whole like difference there, so yeah, so that's my 2 cents about liquidations. I'm really excited. We're getting to the point now where all of the first facilities we bought, we have only been doing this for 5 years. Not 5 years. We started we started looking in 2015. We started looking in 2016 and bought our first facility in 2017. So like 6 going on 7 years right now. We're starting to sell the first good couple of facilities that we have. And the goal is all these smaller facilities that we bought that are less than $1 million, we're stabilizing them, and we're going to sell them and 1031 exchange that into something else. And honestly, there's really no reason to hold on to a property for like 10, 20 years anymore, because you can make just as much money in 5 years or 7 years on the property. So at least that's my thought process. Y'all can tell me different if y'all want to. So, but again, so that's all. I got to hop off because I'm going to go to my pitch, right? If you want to hop onto the Self-Storage Fund of America pitch, just go to stacyrossetti.com/fund, right? stacyrossetti.com/fund. Right. If you're an accredited investor, then you should come listen to us. You come join the family and come do some investing with us. All right. But this is the 6-step system. This is Stacy's 6-step system. This is what I take you through in the course. Actually, everything that I saw you, this is every module. You've got admin, you've got marketing, acquisitions, finance, management, and liquidations. That is all in the course. All right. Because I had a couple of people asking me about that in the email. So I figured I would do that today, go over it. And this will take you step by step. And there's around 100 videos in the course. Okay. So it'll take you, and they're all probably like 5 minutes or something, like 5 to 10 minutes. So they're not super long, but they'll take you through all of this process. Okay. That's the course. Now you just have to go to, stacyrossetti.com, or go to stacyrossetti.com and you'll see the courses there and the deal analyzers there. All right. And I'm going to tell y'all, if you do the course, Super Simple Self-Storage, and you get the deal analyzer and you show up to the Monday nights, this is going to help you over the course of the next couple of months really get an idea of how to do this and also get you educated enough so you can make offers, right? So your goal is to get something under contract within the next 90 days. And doing all three of those will really kind of help you through that process. Okay, so I really hope that y'all check that out. For skip tracing, so we have Kim on staff, and she does our skip tracing for us, and she uses whitepages.com. Okay, so go to Crexy, and if you get the information off Crexy and it's not working, then try whitepages.com and see if that works. All right, and then also we use another company. It's called IDI. And that is like kind of a next level skip tracing company where they have to like check your background and stuff like this, but you can get access to people's information if you need that. All right. So I would try White Pages, and if not, then I would try IDI. It's gonna be more expensive to do IDI. White Pages is like a couple dollars or something. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys hanging on till the end, and I will see you guys at the next Monday session. Okay. All right. Take care.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Storage Nerds. Hope this informative conversation inspired you to go out there and jump into this highly profitable business venture that people rarely talk about. Get more tips on storage space investing at www.stacyrossetti.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave a rating. Together, let's build that thriving passive income one storage space at a time. Until next time.